to reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting. The time is approximately 2:30. Now, we're starting a little bit late, and the reason being because we went a little bit longer than normal in the morning, and we also did a couple of extra items in the morning session. So we're going to be going into consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you for one thing before we go to the consent agenda?
Go right ahead, sir.
Earlier today, we talked and discussed about the Wekiva Island. Since that meeting, I went back and I talked to Mr. Stamer, and I just got off the phone also with Mr. Towers. I've also talked to Rebecca Hammock, and she has told me that the language that Mr. Stamer was concerned about in the noise is in the requirement. And Mr. Stamer said to be a good neighbor and for the children, he would be willing at those 3 dates to go to 500. The 3 dates, the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th, to go to 500. And so therefore, I'm going to amend the motion as the prevailing...
So just a point of clarification, I'd like to ask Mr. Chipak, since you're the one, excuse me?
I told Commissioner
So
Constantine.
just for clarification purposes, I'll go to Mr. Applegate. I'd like to get some direction from you, Mr. Applegate, to make sure that this is all above board and legal. No disrespect to you.
None.
I just want to dot our i's and cross our t's.
Absolutely, and I understand that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Commissioner Constantine asked if he could amend his motion, since he was on the prevailing side and we're still in the meeting throughout the day, it's acceptable for him to make the motion.
Even when the applicant or the individual speaking are not here?
Yes, I'm basing the fact that Commissioner Constantine is stating that he's talked to both sides and they've agreed to it. So that's the main reason.
Okay. Mr. Constantine, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. So I amend the motion to say that those 3 days that were the Sundays that were for the movies, so the 18-year-olds can go in with their 5-year-old brothers. It's now that those 3 dates would be 500, not 450.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, but yet the times are not being changed?
The time was always 9 o'clock for those 3 as part of the
I
motion.
just want to make sure.
Yeah, no changes in times.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Before we call the question, Shaney, do we have any written requests?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Shaney. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll close public input. Mr. Applegate, we're okay to vote on this then?
You are okay to vote.
Okay. Seeing no other questions from the board, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you all for the indulgence.
Now, we go back to the consent agenda, if I may. Public participation, pursuant to Florida law, the public has the right to be heard on all propositions except when the Board of County Commissioners acting ministerially or emergency matters or conducting a meeting exempt from Section 286-011 Florida statute. The public time on propositions shall be 3 minutes for individuals, 6 minutes for group representation, i.e. like an HOA. The rights to be heard during quasi-judicial hearings are governed by Florida law. The public will be provided the opportunity to be heard on non-agenda items at the end of the meeting. Proper decorum will be observed at all times. At this time, we'll go to the consent agenda. Mr. Abel, do you have any changes? I know there's a couple items that you're requesting to be pulled.
Yes, sir. Item number 11 and number 13, the staff would request that we pull those. Item 11, the property owner has pulled a demolition permit for that item, and item 13 will be brought back at a later date.
Okay. Okay. Direction from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve item 10 through 12, number 14 through 34, and number 35, the clerk's report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Okay, that moves also the clerk's report. We're going down to the this afternoon's normal, regular afternoon. Request for acceptance of publication.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Statement for public hearing and procedures. Our staff will present each item for consideration with staff's recommendation. The board will have an opportunity to ask questions to staff when the presentation is finished. The applicant will have the opportunity after the presentation. The board will also have an opportunity to ask the presenters when they're finished. Members of the public interested in speaking for or against the project or issue, please fill out the yellow speaker form located in the lobby and indicate the number and whether you're for or against the item, and place it in the tray that's in the lobby or present it to Shani. Shani, please raise your hand. There you go. Thank you, Vanna. Members of the public will be only allowed to speak once or comment once on each item. If you'd like to have your comments submitted to the record, please fill out the green comment form located in the table in the lobby and place it in the tray, or present it to Shani as well. Speakers should state their name and address clearly for the record and whether for or against the item. Speakers will give them 3 minutes unless they are official spokesperson for an HOA or a legal organization or a group, and they'll be given 6 minutes. If a board member has any questions regarding the speaker's comments, the opportunity will be given once the speaker time has expired. Speakers should limit their comments pertinent to the information regarding the agenda items under discussion. The clerk's office is required to obtain all documents, photos, drawings, and anything that's presented to this board during this county commission meeting. So if you show it to us, please be prepared to leave it with the clerk. Once all the speakers are heard, the applicant will give an opportunity for a rebuttal if necessary, not another presentation. Once we close the public hearing, the matters will be put into the commissions for discussion, recommendation, or motion. Following a motion and a second, the board will be discussed for a vote to be taken. Commissioners who do not cast a vote will be considered voting in support of the motion. Rules for quasi-judicial hearing. Well, the board welcomes all individuals interested in speaking to the board. Florida law requires the board's discussion and quasi-judicial action to be supported by competent, sustainable evidence presented to the board during the hearing of this applicant. Competent, sustainable evidence is such evidence as reasonable mind would accept as adequate in support of the conclusion. Therefore, it must be factual based and must be in the record for support for testimony, both expert and non-expert. And again, if you do present us anything, you're going to be leaving it with the clerk so we can have a record for the meeting. Has any commissioner received any oral or written communication regarding quasi-judicial items? Please disclose so at this time.
I have done.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
have and have submitted them electronically.
I have as well, and the clerk has it. Okay, at this time, we'll go to item number 38, which is the right-of-way vacate. This is a continued item from March 22nd, 2022 BCC meeting. At this time, we have from staff.
Good afternoon. Joy Giles, Senior Planner for the Planning and Development Division. This is a request to consider a resolution to vacate and abandon a portion of uncut right-of-way known as Druid Road, as recorded in Plat Book 11, page 42 in the public records of Seminole County. The applicant has petitioned the county to vacate the subject portion of uncut right-of-way lying along the south side of Lot 10 of the Druid Hills Estate subdivision. The applicant owns Lot 10 and would like to incorporate the subject portion of vacate into her residential lot. Oops. The applicant has provided letters of no objection from all applicable utility companies, as well as the City of Maitland, which is directly south, and Public Works also has no objection to the requested vacate. The applicant has provided a utility and drainage easement dedicated to Seminole County over the portion of the subject vacate. The request complies with the requirements of vacating a right-of-way under Section 35.184 of the Land Development Code and the Florida statutes. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the resolution vacating and abandoning a portion of uncut right-of-way known as Druid Road as recorded in Plat Book 11, page 42 of the Seminole County Public Records. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for staff? Do we have staff? Do we have the applicant present? Would you like to speak to the board about this, or just concur with staff?
I just concur. I think she's done a fabulous job.
Can you just come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record? And it's always nice to hear good things about our staff.
Okay, great. Yes, my name is Mary Catherine Height, and I've lived in my property for about 7 years. I have maintained this little piece of land next to my property. It's about 2,800 square feet for the past 7 years, and so I just wanted to incorporate it into my property so I could have a bigger side yard, and just wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done and made it really easy, and I really love living in Seminole County, and I think you guys do a great job in terms of county services provided to residents. I've lived in a lot of different cities, in Miami, Nashville, Atlanta, and I really love living in Seminole County, so.
Thank you.
Not to try to bias your, decision.
Thank you, Mary.
Do we have any written requests? We have no written requests. Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak for or against this item? Anyone in the public? Seeing none, we'll close public input. We'll go to the district commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I did have the staff look into the fact that there's a lot of, sewer, water programs that go on around there, but Maitland, Altamont Springs, Seminole County, they have checked out everything and ensured that this is okay, and so therefore I am happy to move that we adopt the resolution vacating and abandoning a portion of the uncut right-of-way known as Druid Road as recorded in Plat Book 11, page 42, in the public records of Seminole County.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Congratulations. Well, now we move on to item number 39. We'll hear from staff.
Good afternoon, Annie Silway, Senior Planner with Development Services. I'll be presenting Celery Cameron PD rezone. This request is for a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and low-density residential to low-density residential, and a rezone from A1 agriculture, R1 single-family dwelling, and R1A single-family dwelling to PD plan development for a 124-lot residential subdivision on approximately 34.07 acres, located on the southwest corner of Celery Avenue and Cameron Avenue. The proposed development will provide a minimum of 15% open space, excluding landscape buffers, based on the density of 3.64 dwelling units per net buildable acre. The developer is proposing a tree preservation area on the master development plan along the southern portion of the proposed development. A more defined study to show tree preservation will be required at the time of final development plan. The subject property is located within Sub-Area 2 of the Sanford Joint Planning Agreement, which allows a maximum of 4 dwelling units per net buildable acre, and is consistent with the trend of development in the area. A portion of the Hoops property, Lot 11A, is not included in the proposed plan development and will remain under the ownership of Alan and Brenda Hoops as their homestead. There is an existing home on this property that will remain. However, the Hoops property, Lot 11A, is subdivided for the new subdivision. A right-of-way dedication of 5 feet along a portion of Celery Avenue and a 10-foot along Cameron with a 25-foot radial corner clip for the Hoops property is required, as outlined in the conditions of the proposed development order. The subdivision lot split from the Hoops parcel must occur prior to the preliminary subdivision plan approval. For the proposed site, the developer will be required to dedicate 15 feet of right-of-way along Celery Avenue and 10 feet of right-of-way along Cameron Avenue in order to provide a 35-foot half right-of-way. The developer will be required to build a 5-foot sidewalk along Celery and Cameron Avenue. The applicant proposes a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the north, west, east, and a section of the southwest portions of the perimeter, and a 15-foot wide buffer along the southeast portion of the perimeter. The applicant is requesting to deviate from the code for the portion of the buffer along the west of the subject property. Per section 30.1281 of the Seminole County Land Development Code, the applicant would have been required to provide a 0.4 opacity with a 15-foot buffer width. Staff is in support of the deviation since the adjacent parcel is the Sunterra PD. In the development order for the Sunterra, the development is required to provide a 20-foot buffer along the west. The proposed 10-foot buffer plus the 20-foot buffer would give a substantial buffer between the light industrial site and the future residential development. Utilities for water and sewer will be provided by the City of Sanford. A community meeting for the project was held on December 14th. Approximately 3 people attended, and a copy of the meeting minutes and sign-in sheet are attached. The site will access Cameron Avenue, which is classified as a local road. Staff finds the requested PD zoning classification to be consistent with the Land Development Code and compatible with the development in the area. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and low-density residential to low-density residential, and adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture to R1 single-family dwelling and R1A single-family dwelling to PD plan development on approximately 34.07 acres and the associated master development plan and development order located on the southwest corner of Celery Avenue and Cameron Avenue. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? This time we hear from the applicant. Is the applicant present?
Hi there, Chad Moorhead, Madden Moorhead and Stokes, 431 East Horatio Avenue. Been working with staff a little while on this, and we agree with their recommendations and hope that you would approve it. Also, I've already submitted this for the record at P&Z, but we sent out over 250 mailers for our community meeting and only had, I think we had 4 people show up, one of a couple. So there were 3 residents that showed up, mainly from the River Bend subdivision. We have a concept plan that I believe is in your packet, but I wanted to show it as well to show exactly what we were wanting to do. This is, just to show what the subdivision layout will look like. As you can see. Okay. Also, we're in the Midway Basin, so we know there's drainage issues in this area. Actually, not in this particular piece of property, but to the south and west. This particular property flows to the north directly to Lake Monroe and the river. So just wanted to point that out, that we will be improving the drainage system for this particular development and in this particular area. And here's our development. As you can see, we have a large pond, nice tree save area down on the south. Again, water sewer from the City of Sanford. They'll be tying onto the River Bend utilities that have been run over the last several years. Covert River Bend is directly across Cameron from this. The entries will line up, which was something that you approved a few months ago. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Chad? Commissioner Lockhart?
It wasn't until you just said that the water flows to the north that I'm questioning the location of the retention pond. I'm sure there's a reason for that.
There's just a low area on the south, and there's a ditch that drains it to the north now.
Okay. Okay.
Ditch on the north side of Celery hasn't been maintained over the years, and that's why we're going to pipe it actually
Okay.
kind of around the corner so that
Got
we
it.
don't have any issues with it.
Okay.
And Mr. Moorhead, just for clarifications, I've not seen your plans, but I'm assuming that north is up.
Yes, sorry. Celery Avenue is the northern property line, northern boundary line.
Just for clarification purposes.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Zimboud and Commissioner Zimboud, I think Commissioner Constantine.
Yes, just to make sure we get it on the record, there's no, there may have been some discussion at P&Z, but there's no concern this impacts the Midway drainage area?
Not at all.
You've engineered it so that nothing is going to run off that otherwise did not run off previously?
We will engineer it next, but I've looked at the Midway Basin study that you guys have commissioned. I understand how the basins work out here, and most of the issues that deal with that are basically along a ditch to the south and then some stuff to the west of us.
Great.
But there's a limited basin that goes to this area.
Thank you.
Commissioner Constantine?
Just continuing questions about that, just to make sure. The river is to the northeast of this property.
North and northeast, yes.
Okay, so, and it flows north, but you are going to engineer it No, you haven't done it yet, but you're going to engineer it so that the drainage is going into this pond, is what you're saying, and there will be no drainage off of your property, no additional drainage off of
No
your
additional
property.
drainage, so the site, I'd say 99% of it will go into this retention pond. We'll treat it in that retention pond, and it'll be discharged to the north through a pipe system to the lake and river.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Herr?
So I love our alignment on this particular issue. Everyone's looking out for midway drainage, and Mr. Moorhead and I have gone over that fairly extensively in briefing. The way the community is planned with the tree save, using sewer, not septic, consistent with the surrounding area, and the improvement to the ditch that's going to take place, I would move to adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a small-scale future land use map amendment from suburban estates and low-density residential to low-density residential, and adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 to R1 and R1A to PD on approximately 34 acres, and the associated master development plan, and development order located on the southwest corner of Celery Avenue and Cameron Avenue. How about
Second.
that? Thank
We
you.
have a motion and a second. Before we call the question, Shani, are there any written requests? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to address the board on this issue? Anyone in the audience, either for or against? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. Any additional comments from the board? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go on to public hearing for legislators. We'll go on to item number 40. This time we hear from staff. Please give us your name and department.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Dennis Westrick, Interim Utilities Engineering Division Manager. The item before you is a amendment to the ordinance, Seminole County Code Section 270.182. It is a request to amend that ordinance, and let me find my notes here, and to redefine the level of service definition for equivalent residential connection, more commonly known as an ERC, and to provide consistency to specific levels of service in a single document. The ERC was adjusted and approved by Resolution 2021-R-99. The approved ERC and capacity guidelines are now going to be included in a single location in Section 20.45 of the Administrative Code approved by Resolution 2022-R-44.
Any questions for staff? Before we have a motion, is anyone in the public, do we have any written requests, Shani? Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to either speak for or against this item? Either for or against this item, please come forth. Seeing none, we'll close public input. Ask for board direction.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Dennis, thank you very much for taking the interim position over there and keeping us on
I
track.
served in that capacity about 10 years ago. so-
Understood. Thank you very much. I know it's a big ask at the last minute, but thank you.
It's Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
I would tell you, Dennis is no stranger to that department. I'm glad to see that he's here. Okay, at this time, we'll go to the county manager report.
I have nothing new to add today.
Okay, perfect. County attorney's report.
Nothing else today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Before we go to district commissioners, I'd like to move up the chairman's report, if there's no objection. On the chairman's report, I have a couple items. Early last week, the board received a letter from our acting county manager, Joe Abel, which was his 60 days notice to his retirement, which he shared with the board at our December 14th, 2021 board meeting. Joe has been with the county government as an employee for nearly 15 years, plus or minus. I don't know the exact date, Joe, but I know it's around 15 years. He served as deputy county manager since March as 2019. Prior to that, Joe served as the director of leisure services for 12 years, where he oversaw parks, recreation, greenways and natural lands, extension services, and library services. Joe was a Parks and Recreational Director for the City of Coral Gables for 9 years prior to coming to this county, and is also a certified park and recreation professional. As we all know, Joe is a vivid West Virginia University alumni. I know he wears his alumni shirt and his pin very proudly. You can find him most Saturdays with his lovely wife, Kim, cheering on his team as he heads up the local West Virginia alumni chapter. Since Joe has submitted his intent for retiring effective June 4th of 2022, I think it would be proper if we put in a new interim county manager, and I'd like to make a motion, because of all of this, to put in Mr. Applegate as an interim county manager and to move Paul Chipak as the acting attorney for the county. That'd be my motion.
Second.
And also with that motion, to have Mr. Abel available, over these next couple of weeks, still on the county payroll, but available for any questions, phone calls, or any other appointments that's needed. Sorry I didn't add that in there, but that was my intent. That was my motion. The seconder agree?
Yes.
Any discussion? Commissioner Lockhart.
Yeah. I guess there's been a lot of discussion going on to create this dynamic at this point in time in the meeting. So I've not been privy to any of that. So I have quite a few questions, actually.
Go right ahead.
One, if this is the decision that Mr. Abel has talked through with the chairman and whomever else it is that he's been talking with, I certainly respect that, because I can only imagine what would prompt you to make that decision, because I know how much this organization means to you and how much work you've been putting in, and actually specifically how many things you'd plan to do over the course of the next couple of months, because the load is not light. There's a lot going on in this organization right now. So with that being said, I understand that we all certainly respect and admire the county attorney and the work that he does, and I certainly don't want my questions or comments to be construed that I don't value your role in this organization, but we've been talking about the fact that you're just now getting the county attorney's office back to the level of staffing that you've got a full team, and you introduced some wonderful new team members today, and so to take you away from that team, to divert your attention to the county manager's office, I feel like handicaps the county attorney's office to some degree. Not that I don't think Mr. Chipok is a wonderful person. But when you're looking at the health of the whole organization, I'm not sure that handicapping both sides of the operation is a great plan. The reality is, without going into details, I think every one of us knows that there is a lot going on in this organization that will require a very hands-on interim. And so I want to make sure, Mr. Applegate, that you really want to be the interim, because as we know, based on the update we had this morning, we're not that much closer to making a decision on a full-time position, so person. So I want to throw that out there. Although it appears there's already some coalescing that's occurred, I think it's important that we have a discussion.
My only comments that I've had was with Mr. Applegate. That's the only comments that I've had with. Mr. Applegate, would you like to address that?
Yeah, thank you. I work for all 5 of you, and if 3 of you or 4 of you say that I'm the interim county manager, or if I'm not the interim county manager, I work for you all. If you want me as interim, in a perfect world, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I was asked if I would consider it, and I told the chairman for the organization I would, but on a condition that it's a very limited time. I would not accept any other compensation for it, and that it would be for, I envision, and somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks, tops. Joe has been in the loop on this, and, I think my office, I do have them up to, it's going to take time for Desiree and Garland to, hit the ground running, so to speak, but they're both very bright, and I'm not worried about that. And, I know Paul would do a great job, but I made it very clear to the chairman, only if 3 of you say that that's what you want to do. So, that's...
I think the question is, do you believe that in the interim time, the short period of time, that the workload would be able to be done not just by you, but your staff? That's what you're asking.
Well, yes, that's the primary question.
Yeah.
There would be a couple follow-ups probably to that.
Yes. I think with Tricia and Melanie, it would be more of a division of responsibility. I think the department heads are fantastic people that are going to keep the ship going in the right direction. And so I don't view the 8 to 12 weeks as a nightmare. I view the 8 and 12 weeks, if you decide that I'm the interim, to be an opportunity to work with some great people to, I hate to use the term over and over, but to keep the ship afloat and running. And like I said, in a perfect world, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I will say this. There's very few people I respect more in my 40 years of service than Joe Abel. He has, in the time that I've been here, he has been nothing but respectful to the county attorney's office. He's accomplished a great deal. The battle that we had over crumb rubber in Cork is legendary in some places around the county. We have worked very well together, both before he became deputy and acting interim, so this is a, painful moment for me, too.
So can I ask what other alternatives were contemplated? Since you, Commissioner Delary, were instrumental in making this happen, what other alternatives did you consider before before arriving to Mr. Applegate?
Well, since we got the letter from Mr. Abel last week, I thought in order to have the transition appropriately, since Mr. Applegate is very involved in the connection with our consultants for the county manager search, I thought that would be the best solution. I did not go and seek or look at any other opportunities. I just spoke to Mr. Applegate. Mr. Applegate said he'd be willing to do it and assured me that in the short term, it wouldn't be a problem. That's why I'm there.
Can I?
Please.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. And I just want to, after the letter, so that you understand, I have not talked to anyone else other than Mr. Applegate also. And after due consideration from, the interim from last meeting to now, I've done a lot of thought. I will make no bones about it, and I've told Mr. Abel and others that I felt that from the beginning that Mr. Applegate would make a better interim county manager myself. I felt that, when we're talking about running not doing any deviation, keeping the ship afloat, going smoothly down the road, that would be the best circumstance. I believe that he has filled that role before, and in the interim, you were, working. You've been here before when we've had to have, the circumstances where we were looking for a new county manager, and I just felt that Mr. Applegate would be in a circumstance where there would be less diversion, taking nothing away from Mr. Abel. That was just, I'm just being very honest from the beginning. Once that, I received the letter, I felt that myself that would be appropriate at this time to make that change. And quite frankly, I was going to make the motion myself today. The chairman just beat me to it, so I made a second. Again, this has no reflection on Mr. Abel. This has, I do believe that this is the right move for the county as we go forward, and keeping, everything moving in the right direction.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Herr?
I feel similarly that it seems like this train has left the station. And first, I'll start by saying, Joe, I thank you for stepping up and attempting to change 5 people that are absolutely resistant to change. And that is the single greatest obstacle to growth and improvement, is resistance to change. And so I hope that if we do this and there is a keeping the ship afloat for this interim 12-week period of time, that it will allow the 5 of us the opportunity to contemplate that when someone new comes into this role, we have to be open to new ideas, new considerations, new input from our staff on better ways to do things. And if we use this 12 weeks to do that, then yay, let's do it. But if we're going to get anchored around how we've always done it for the 16 years we've been here, or the 20 years we've been here, then shame on us, because we will not have grown through this transition of transition. And I would also add that, let's just call this like it is. I would also ask that the 5 of us respect the fact that Bryant's going to have 1 foot in legal and 1 foot in running the county, and that is a really tough position to be in. I realize he's fully staffed, and I realize that the team in both operations are capable of running it, quite honestly, without you, and that's not a slight to you, but a compliment to them. But you have detail on things that they don't have and don't need to figure out on their own, because you are still here. So the 5 of us need to be disciplined around the late-night phone calls that go to all of our staff members, the texts that are going, the last-minute requests to rush something onto an agenda item. One of the things that Joe has been absolutely phenomenal about is putting his foot down and saying, nope, that can't go in 2 weeks, because that agenda's already locked and loaded. We need to go a month out. And I would hope that you will do the same, and we need to get comfortable in that space. I think it'll be a great preparation time for the incoming new person for us to ready ourselves.
I also pointed, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I also pointed out that I'm thinking it's going to be 3 or 4 meetings, maybe 5 meetings tops, that I'll be sitting here as interim, if you all decided it. And, I can't share things when I told all of you many times. You say things to me as the county attorney I can't share with others. It's just the way the Sunshine Law works. And I've always been very careful about that. So I was asked, and I talked to Joe, and so that's where I'm at. But again, if 3 of you say no, I'm not going to be running out of the chamber, but I work for all of you.
Commissioner Zimbow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So from my perspective, I agree with a lot of what's already been said here. And I would only say that I've been through this probably a couple dozen times in different organizations. It's always a struggle. But I will tell you that the cream rises to the top. We have good employees in this organization. We have great people in this organization. There's no doubt in my mind, albeit the county attorney is going to have one foot one place, 1 foot somewhere else. Joe's done a fantastic job in this time he's been here. But it is, in my opinion, time to move on. His intentions have been conveyed to us in writing, and I think this organization will be just fine. Will it be smooth, 100% easy every day? Of course not. But that's the challenge before us, and it builds character, and it will help our people rise to the top, including ourselves. So I will be supporting this motion.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Lockhart.
So I'd like to further explore the availability of Mr. Abel. I really hope y'all know what you're doing, because there is so much going on that this man is riding herd on, and that he knows what is happening and has been intimately involved. And no offense to Mr. Applegate, but he is not. And the only other people who have been involved and engaged are sitting on that back row. And my concern is that, depending on how accessible Mr. Abel is going to be, the bulk of the heavy lifting is going to be carried out on that back row. Again, no offense. And so I want to be really sure that we are clear that although we are clearly heading in the direction of asking Mr. Applegate to be the acting county manager, there is a ton of heavy lifting to be done. And I will reiterate Commissioner Herr's comments about recognizing that we cannot be overburdening with many phone calls and many emails and text messages to that team, because they are stretched to the absolute thinnest. So, Mr. Abel, when you say you will be available, can you please tell me what that really looks like?
I gave you 60 days as I think is appropriate. I intend to be available for the full 60 days. I can certainly have a laptop available if that's the wish of the commission, and I certainly have my cell phone. I won't be turning my cell phone off. I've already let the executive team know that I will be available to them way beyond my June 4th term. I don't intend to leave the organization or my leadership team high and dry in this transition. I agree that there's a transition period that needs to happen. I understand the concern of making long-term decisions with a short-term county manager, and I don't disagree with the direction that is on the table at this point. But rest assured, I will be available as necessary over the course of the next 60 days or next time period that I need to be available to this organization.
Thank you. Commissioner Zimbaro?
I think Mr. Abel has pretty much answered what my clarity question was going to be, which was that availability. And for the record, this board does intend to pay out his 60 days, correct?
Yeah, that's...
That was just an assumption.
I just wanted to make sure, for the record.
Yeah.
He's still a county employee as he
That's right.
finishes
Mr.
his
Abel will
term.
make himself available, and we sincerely appreciate that.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say one more.
Sure, go right ahead, Mr. Applegate.
Joe has assured me that if I was selected, that he would be available at any time. And I'm asking, I would ask the department heads just to keep the status quo until we get somebody on board. This is not the time in my view, for any grandiose new projects or plans. And, and I will say one other thing. If, for example, if I was asked, and I know this is not going to happen, but if I was asked to have a department head removed, you'd have to fire me first. There's not going to be any, no, I know, there's not going to be any changes.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Hurd.
I'm just going to get a little bit granular about the approach. So I appreciate that you don't want to make any changes. We need to be cognizant of the fact that when we throw a teeny little stone into the pond, it creates a ripple effect, and that includes our staff. So we need to be doing the same thing in order to make this work. And I would also really, really, really request at my very heart that we don't get presented with, you don't do this or I'm resigning, ever again. Because that can't be how we work together.
Okay. Anything else before I call the question? All in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Joe, for your time, and I look forward to working with you over the next 60 days as well. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, continue under the chairman's report. County had a vendor fair on March 31st. It was very successful. I was there. Markley and his team did a phenomenal job putting that together. I wanted to thank all of the people on the purchasing department, as well as some of the HR people that were there. I know Christine was there as well. And Christine, I think everyone did a phenomenal job, so thank you for that. Also want to thank Development Review Group, Rebecca Hammock, with the Community LDC meeting that happened on April 6th. I've heard a lot of great feedback, Rebecca, from the citizens. I think your team is doing a phenomenal job, so thank you for that. April 19th, we'll have the Land Development Code Amendment Work Session, which is next Tuesday. We're going to start at 9 a.m. to noon. It'll be the morning session. 12 to 12:15 will be somewhere around lunch, give or take. And then 12:15 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon will be the afternoon session. If there's no objections to that, I want to make sure that everyone has that on the calendar. We also have June 14th in the BCC meeting at 9:30 to 12 p.m. in the afternoon, regularly scheduled meeting, which include district reports, county managers' updates, county attorney updates. There'll be no public hearing in that portion of that day. It's unneeded. So we're going to be doing the ERA visioning retreat from 12:30 to 5 p.m. We're going to be providing lunch. That'll be in room 3024. I want to make sure that that's on everyone's calendar as well.
What is the date again?
June 14th. In the morning, we're going to have a BCC meeting, but there'll be no afternoon session.
Got it.
I'd like you to all put on your calendar, if need be, the save the date for the Veteran Appreciation Luncheon. It'll be April 28th at the Sanford Civic Center. The doors will open at 11 a.m. Lunch will be served at 11:30. There's no cost. We're inviting veterans. We've sent out the save the date prior to this. We're highlighting the Purple Heart Medal, and we're also having a special speaker. We videotaped it. It's a World War II veteran. He was at the third wave of Omaha Beach, and we actually interviewed him. I think staff did a phenomenal job of that interview. I was there for quite a bit of it, and it was, to say it was moving is an understatement. To hear this man speak, he is truly not just a hero, but history in real life. So I'm glad we're able to capture that as well. Also have some sad news. Want to make sure we keep Tom Jones, employee of Roads and Stormwater, in our prayers, and his family. He died at home last week. He was Public Works employee for nearly 20 years, and Just want to make sure we keep Tom Jones and his family in our prayers, Jimmy Beach and his crews for working through this difficult time, so please keep everyone in their prayers. Also, this morning, we had a ribbon cutting for Inspire Cafe. It's on the second floor, and hopefully we'll have more people going there as the year progresses. That's the end of the chairman's report. I'm going to go to district commissioners. District 5.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I think you all are now getting emails from Florida Gas Transmission Company. They look something like this. They're giving us updates on when they are doing maintenance. This organization and my office have been in regular contacts with regard to the pipeline that goes under portions of my district. There was an incident out there prior to my being elected, and following up with them with regard to what's being done around the rest of the pipe that's out in that market. We do have a very concerned citizen who understands this industry and is engaged with us as well. They've been extremely cooperative, but I have asked for them to be updating all of us on what's happening out there. Last Links board meeting was on 3/24, nothing remarkable to report, although the next one is on April 28th, right smack in the middle of the Veterans Luncheon, so as the daughter of a World War II veteran, I will hate missing that, but we'll go to the Links meeting. Good Morning Seminole hosted an event recently. That's the Seminole County Regional Chamber that hosts Good Morning Seminole, and it talked about electric vehicles. And I wanted to let you all know that they now have a program where they will install free charging stations at your location. Perhaps we have one here. I know we may have 2 commissioners that have electric cars, and right now we're using extension cords, so we can have a free electric vehicle charging station put in, and it benefits the organization, the chamber. It's one of very few across the country that has set up this program. It really is visionary, and I'd highly encourage us to consider it, or any of you that may have businesses that may want one. I also did the Seminole County Department of Health tour, and they would like me to share with you a big thank you for our help with their walking trail, which goes around the property, and a thank you for the trailer that they used for COVID and are now using for community integrated health services, including overdose prevention, asthma, and coronary artery disease education and screening. And I would point out once again that they offer a free program with an innovation lab, and to any of the directors that are currently wrestling with the way things are happening in a department that may need to be improved, the innovation lab process, if you were to hire a consultant to do that, because I have done this before, it's a sticky note. We saw it this morning on the Business Spotlight. Having somebody trained and facilitate that, and having you get the right people in the room, will create a process improvement that will be rather painless and fun. And the Department of Health is doing this for free. I would highly encourage us to take advantage of it. Steve and I went on a tour of it back when the former county manager was here, and Steve Fussell was so excited about it, he was just tickled pink. So we have not taken advantage of it yet, but I do think we should. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. District 4.
I will be in Gainesville Thursday and Friday this week, attending 2 of the Advanced County Commissioner class training sessions as a part of the Florida Association of Counties Institute for County Government. Those have been wonderful, and they will, I expect this week will be fantastic as well. Always happy to bring back information for anyone who's not able to attend. Along with Commissioner Constantine, attended the Sharing Center's Good Samaritan Luncheon this last week. It was an absolutely packed house. The sheriff was kind of co-hosted the event for everyone, and jokingly commented, but not really joking, that he was glad that the fire marshal wasn't there because it was literally packed. which is great for the Sharing Center. They raised a lot of money, and such a wonderful organization that does so much for our community. The Inspire Cafe that Commissioner Delary mentioned, for anyone in the building or close by, they are going to be open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you want to remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the days that you can grab a snack from the folks from the Inspire Cafe. That'd be great. And I'd like to ask commissioners for a resolution of commendation and appreciation be presented to Joe Abel on May 24th.
Perfect.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Tonight, there is a community meeting that our team from Planning and Development and our consultant from Renaissance, thank you, Rebecca read my mind. She's like, she's forgetting the name of the consultant. Tonight, from 6:30 to 8:30, it's at the Divine Truth Christian Center. That's at 350 Anchor Road. Thank you so much to them for being willing to host this community workshop. This is the final draft recommendations to the community before bringing them back to us as a board. So there's been a ton of work that has gone into this from our internal team, from the consultant, from the community, talking about the direction that this board has given, that we intend to make Rosenwald a hub for outreach, both education, health, recreation, all sorts of facilities and opportunities for that community. So they are very excited, and I know we are all looking forward to hearing the recommendations that will be coming back. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner, District 3, I'm sorry, District 3.
Thank you, Commissioner. I also wanted to congratulate, we've had a lot of great events coming up this past, over the last couple of weeks. The Oviedo Winter Springs Chamber of Commerce did a great job with the Taste of Oviedo over at the Oviedo Mall. Also wanted to let you know that at the Central Florida Expressway PD&E study that was on the 414 Expressway, Maitland Boulevard. Quite a few comments from a number of people there at that event. I have to tell you that almost to a soul, it was exciting. They were all happy and excited, had a few questions, but just like the rest of us, they were very excited about the opportunity to get that congestion off of that strip of 414, went from 434 to the Bear Lake Road area. Also, Commissioner Herr and I saw her, I don't know if anyone else attended, but I saw her at the Springs concert, which I have to tell you, the Philharmonic does a wonderful job there. What a great event. And they had the music of Journey and Queen, but they also had actual NASA astronauts there with their own band. Playing a little bit of Beatle music, so it was kind of exciting there. Commissioner Zimbauer and I were both at the opening of for the tour and the presentation at the Altamont Springs Regional Water Reclaim Facility, where they're actually turning biosolids into energy, and it is a pilot project, and one that I'm very excited about being able to do that using nature's own energy and heat to do it in 30 minutes instead of millions of years and turn it into fuel, renewable, clean energy. On April 9th, there was also the zoo, and maybe Commissioner Zimbauer, I'll let you view there, but the brews around the zoo, once again, what a great event, always quite crowded, and I think it was sold out again. I'm also looking forward to the Rosenwald Community Workshop this evening. Very excited about the opportunities for that community and for the county. There are future events. We've got the Central Florida Expressway Authority Board on the 14th of this month, and I would like to ask and make a motion that we send a letter, and anyone that wishes to sign it along with the chairman, to the District Secretary, Jared Perdue of DOT, for his new appointment. He has been a tremendous asset to this area, and I know that he's going to be a tremendous asset for the state of Florida as the new FDOT director, and we want to always stay on his good side, because we're going to need things from him.
I'll
if I'm-
second that motion.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion
And I think we'd
passes.
probably all like to sign it.
Yeah. Also, one of the things with the Central Florida Expressway, and I don't really have a date, but we really need to have a presentation for future business, as to a presentation from them of what they're probably going to need from us and Sanford, by the way, to facilitate the expressway. I call it the Airport Expressway, if you will. And so I think that that is something that we need to put on the agenda for future. When they are ready, I will ask for a specific date, but I did want to point that out, that that is something that we're probably going to have to help in a way that will facilitate that particular project. And I think all of us have already said that that is a very important project for us to do. Also, sad news, once again, we have had a wastewater spill into the Wekiva from Utilities, Inc., and this is not the first time, this is not the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time. It's a continuing problem. I think not only did we have one a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, but I think there's another one that just happened recently, in the last couple of days. And I have asked the staff to please, if they would, put together a letter that we can look at and sign, if you will, concerning our concerns and about the lack of overall containment that this company continues to do in the Sweetwater area. It's mostly my district, but it also happens to be a little bit of Commissioner Lockhart's district. And this is a outstanding Florida waterway. It's something we all know is such a precious and valuable resource. And for them to be so cavalier in continuing to have spills and dumps in that river is just unacceptable. And so I would very much like support of us to send a letter to them concerning, about our concerns. And I will make that as a form of motion.
Second. Discussion. The only thing I'd like to add, Commissioner Constantine, you're correct about it being a historical or a very precious waterway, but it affects the entire aquifer.
Yes, it does.
So it's not just one area, it's, that aquifer goes across multiple counties, and it affects many things, mostly the springs as well.
It's our watershed.
So, any discussion? All in fit? Commissioner Herr?
I just have a question. I'm fine with the motion, but being the newest one to this, sending a letter to the violator saying that we're appalled, but we have no control over them, we haven't moved a needle. So is there something else that we can do that actually will move a needle? We're continuing to repeat the behaviors of the past just like them.
Great, Commissioner. The thought is, we have no control over them. Public Service Commission does. I did ask, and I'm sorry, I'm glad you brought up that letter also be sent to the Public Service Commission so that they are aware of it. And, it's not like we haven't discussed it in the past. It's a private utility. We have no control over it, but we do buy water from them also in certain areas of this county. The county does. And I wish we had more jurisdiction. This commission took an unprecedented step a number of years ago to intervene in their request for increase when they were just increasing our citizens a great deal more than others, and we're just asking for one compact price for everybody. They have about 7 or 8 or more utilities in the state, and they were supposed to be, each one is supposed to stand on its own, but they wanted a single price. So our citizens were the ones that had to pay for the addition. Unfortunately, although we thought we were going to win, we didn't.
We had a great argument, our expert, we just had a great argument,
Yeah.
and it was a shocking decision.
But frankly, the only thing we can do is support our citizens and in our disgust of their continuing lack of control of their own.
Commissioner Constantine, there is one thing that this board could do when we look at our overall water master plan and our one water solution plan, and that'll be the opportunity about trying to purchase them.
Yes.
That's the only way to address it. in my mind.
And thank you. That was the other thing that when I was finished, I think that is something we need to look at in the long run.
We've done it to other utilities before.
And we have looked at it before. It wasn't the right time or place. I think, Commissioner, you might have been here when they looked at it in the past. But it might be the right time, and the price might be right.
Commissioner Zimbow?
I would say, I concur with Commissioner Herr. I would support it because we're building the record.
Agreed.
Yep.
We're building the
Agreed.
record about the
I agree.
ongoing,
Yep.
But it needs to get
concerns.
copied to all of the right people.
Yes.
Commissioner Lockhart?
Only because I need to put on the record that the lawsuit that Commissioner Constantine referred to and that it disproportionately impacted a number of folks in his district, it would have even more greatly impacted a number of folks in Commissioner Herr's district. So the fact that they were looking at their utility as an entire unit meant that they could spread the cost of that infrastructure improvement across their entire organization, because when the work that was going to be done in Lincoln Heights and that area, that community could not afford to absorb the cost of that improvement. So I'm not saying that I think Utilities, Inc. is a fabulous organization or that they're doing good things, but understand that were they to look at each of those operations as individual operations, there are many folks in our community who could not afford water. I just want to put it on the record that there are two sides to the coin.
And please understand, I was talking about holistically. They have businesses throughout the state of Florida. Everybody in Seminole County was getting an increase much higher than any place else. So that was the concern.
If there's no objections, let me call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Mr. Constantine, anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
District 2?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, Seminole County hosted the Soil and Water event on April 1st. The Seminole Soil and Water Conservation District hosted the state's annual land judging competition for middle and high school students active in Future Farmers of America and the 4-H. Sadly, no Seminole County schools participated, although they were invited. The land judging competition provides students the opportunity to determine land classification, use, and treatment practices for selected sites. The students must consider topsoil, texture, and thickness, effective depth, the permeability of subsoil, slope, erosion, drainage, and land capability. The thing that was unique about this, it was the first time it was ever held in Seminole County, and it was the largest ever in the state. I had the opportunity to go out and mix with about 300 children from all over the state, both 4-H and FFA. It was held at the Big Oaks Ranch out in my district. It was actually a pretty interesting scenario where they had the earth dug up and the children had to go in and judge based on the soils and the slope and so on and so forth. So it's pretty interesting. As Commissioner Constantine indicated, April 4th attended the hydrothermal processing event in Altamont Springs, where they were taking algae from Lake Jessup, mixing it with biosolids from the wastewater plant and turning it into basically crude oil. It's a pretty interesting process. Medical Examiners Board, I'll give you all an update on that, as sad as it might be. Just some quick information, just to give you some dynamics of what Seminole County's doing. Seminole County, this is for March 2022, we had 26 autopsies performed in the month of March, 150 year-to-date. External exams, we had 7 in the month of March, 25 year-to-date. Remote external exams, Seminole County had 19 in March and 90 so far.
You had a great meeting and you got lots of detail, and if we're interested, we can contact you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cremation approvals, Seminole County, 262 in the month of March, 1,585 year-to-date. Airport Board passenger count. We are sitting at the month of March for 2022, 296,123. That's still a reduction over 2019 of about 12%. So we have not made it back to the passenger count that we had in 2019. Also, at the board meeting, the board voted not to renew the CEO's contract. There is a 4-month provision for Tom Nolan to remain at post. Whether that will occur or not, I'm not certain, but that was the vote that was taken at the board meeting for the Sanford Orlando Airport.
What was that vote?
5-4.
Okay.
The the zoo, as Mr. Constantine indicated, Brews Around the Zoo was April 9th. It was also a very successful event this year, as it tends to usually be. It was sold out. I'll have the numbers of the actual money made, but I understand significant amount of revenue was generated. I have a request for those that are unaware of it. I think we brought this up once before. Sustany, which is also referred to as Lake Pickett North. Our staff has been engaging with Orange County as that moves forward. There's some important dates. There was a community meeting on March 29th, 2022. Our staff has been communicating with with Orange County. There's an LPA coming up on 4/21. Transmittal to the BCC is 5/10/2022. The LPA is 8/18/2022 for adoption, the BCC 9/22 to be determined for adoption. Staff has got some concerns. I think they've shared that with us in emails. I would ask permission to request our staff read into the record at those hearings in Orange County what our staff's concerns are. And that would be a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, before we ask staff to read that in there, I would like to have the opportunity to discuss with staff, because I really think
Sure.
that we should probably send either myself or the vice chair to read those items into the record. No disrespect to staff. I think it'd be prudent we've done that before. I think it's prudent that we actually have a commissioner do it.
Yeah, I think previously there was a letter written by the chair that was read in by,
Myself.
I think it might have been Commissioner Valari,
So just,
Mr. Lockhart?
5-6 years ago.
so before we start sending staff or
I
the,
didn't say that, just talk to staff about it.
or a commissioner, again, to another body's public meeting to read concerns into the record, I think this board would probably need to have a consensus that we share those concerns and have,
Sure.
because if someone's speaking on behalf of the board, it should be that that's the board's position.
The reason why
I'm making eye contact with the county attorney, and it's making me, my palms are sweating a little bit here, so.
That's why we need to have more dialogue with our staff. That's why I said I want to talk to staff.
I'll get with Rebecca and we'll figure out a time on the agenda coming up.
Okay.
Fantastic. The Eagle Scout Dinner will be, the Seminole County Boy Scout Golden Eagle event will be on May 14th at 6 p.m. at Weston Lake Mary. Hope to see some of you there. I'm certain some of you will be there. And this will be celebrating 100 years of scouting in Seminole County. Who knew, 100 years. Next item up is, I'll pass out a flyer. Could. Recently, we had a discussion on this board about employee compensation. What I've put together is a working document that I would like my fellow commissioners to consider. And what I've put together here is a one-time for those individuals who are most impacted by the current 8.4% inflation ratio. And to memorialize this, this is, as you see in your charts, For those making an hourly rate of $14 to $19.23, a one-time payment of $3,500. And then you can see as it goes down from there. The process that I put together is this helps those employees that are most in need, that show up on a daily basis to do the people's work. This also circumvents the previous proposal, which was a 3% across the board, which in fact would have given the highest increase to the most heavily paid in this organization, of which some had already recently received an increase. What I would ask is, and I've sent this to Finance to ask them to give us an impact statement, how this would impact us. This also would take care of the compression issue that is now known from the last action we took. So I only bring this to you and put it on your radar that I've asked staff to give us some numbers on this, and I would like us to consider this as soon as possible to get this money in the hands of the people that are most in need in this organization.
I'll recognize Commissioner Hur in a moment, but we are having a work session on this topic on June 17th when we get the salary studies back, and I think it would be more appropriate for us to discuss it maybe at that work session, but to act prior to that, I think it would be not appropriate. Commissioner Hur?
I would agree with that, and I would also point out that this is exactly the type of thing that I think we got to be careful about, because this needs to be part of a bigger discussion. The 3% was part of a bigger discussion. It was an interim step. It was part of a process. We didn't like that. I appreciate that. But now we're going to piecemeal this. This does exactly what was objected to in the previous round. And by the way, I've also noticed another thing that we do. We have future agenda items. That's an item that we agreed to in the code of conduct that we would bring up. This is clearly a future agenda item, not part of a district report. So my perspective is, I agree with you, Chairman, that we would discuss it when we're discussing the budget. That's what we did already. And I would like to hear staff's plan.
Staff's not, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for staff, but...
Sure. Well, understand,
Take the other work session.
This is the only opportunity I have to speak to my fellow commissioners, so I put it on the table. It's not what was already presented, by the way. This is a one-time payment.
I understand what it is.
This is not talking about a across-the-board increase. So, for what it's worth, everybody has a copy of it. I've asked staff to give me input on what those costs would be. If we desire to talk about it on June 17th, I'm happy to have that discussion at that point.
Commissioner Lockhart, then I'll go back to Commissioner Hur.
So a well-thought-out, whether or not it was agreed to, a well-thought-out, comprehensive, step-by-step plan was brought to this board by our staff, and it was rejected. We, on the fly, made a decision to increase the minimum wage, shooting from the hip and trying to salve the decision that was made, and created a problem. The problem that we created, I believe our staff is going to come back with a solution to help fix. This appears to me to be another shooting from the hip, from the dais. Here's my solution. Let me throw it out there because maybe it will salve some of what was done. I don't think that continuing to do things like that helps this organization. It throws more things into a tizzy. We need to be very careful, again, about the words that we use from this dais and how we use this microphone to speak to our organization and to the community. And throwing things out like this, I think if we were to jump on this without doing the due diligence as a part of a holistic, since that seems to be a word we all like around here a lot, plan is going to pour fuel on the fire of an already very tedious situation. So this may be something similar to where we wind up, but I'm not going to discuss this now. This is definitely not appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will agree to disagree, but duly noted.
Commissioner Hur, then Commissioner Constantine.
So if I have to find good news in this, is that we are now it appears, all looking toward a solution for insulating staff against inflation. Whether this is the solution or there's another solution that comes up, we got this, we're going to work it through, we'll figure it out. It sounds like we have more alignment now than we did before, although we're in the weeds on the methodology, which is staff's job, not ours. And I would also look to Bryant in your dual role at the moment. I don't think we get to direct staff to do this stuff. Nope. I think this would have gone through Joe or through you. So just for the future, as we're all trying to consider really, really well-intentioned items, the protocol is that it goes through the county manager.
Correct.
To direct staff.
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood.
And I can't agree more, and this is one of the important issues, and I know you disagree with my statement, I apologize for that, but I wanted to make everyone know that we're a team. And so, we're working hard on it. I know Lori Bailey Brown is working hard on this with Tim, not on this, but on coming up with a plan. So, lots happening.
So to be clear, this commissioner will continue to request input from staff. I'm not directing staff to do anything. I'm having inquiries. It's my duty to inquire, and I will continue to inquire. So let's make sure the record is clear on that. I understand. If I have no desire in directing staff what to do. I understand the procedures, what this board should be doing, but I will make my inquiries accordingly.
Understood.
And I don't think anybody assumed any different. Mr. Constantine, you wanted to make a comment?
I just think that all of us are struggling to ensure that we get the message to staff that they are valued, and valued a great deal. And there has been a lot of rumors, and there's been a lot of accusations, and there's been a lot of questions. And the bottom line is that, as Commissioner Hurd just said, we are all trying to find a way to make them understand and help them in this very difficult time that we all see. And before the across the board came up, I told at a public meeting, as I believe the chairman did, that I had a problem with that. And I said it again in a meeting with the staff. So it was. I never really felt that I had gotten a full and complete analysis of that. But that's not the point here. The point here right now is I think all of us are trying to find a way to make sure that the staff knows that we appreciate them, they're valued, and we understand that many of them are going through a great deal of hardship and difficulty, and we will address that. And I think that if the survey, the salary survey, comes out and we can do it sooner than June 17th, I would love to do it sooner than June 17th. I'm not going to speak for Commissioner Zimbauer, but I think this was kind of like his attempt to try to show that he's trying to find some way to work things out. But the bottom line is, I think that all of you that are out there doing good work for the citizens of Seminole County need to understand that this group, these commissioners, this board of directors that you have, understand and want to do something. And as soon as we can do it in a very judicious manner, we are going to do it.
Commissioner Lockhart?
There are a couple of bullet points on this plan that you've distributed that I'm going to read, because it is this spirit that I think is causing concern, and it's not collegial. The Zimbauer plan: those who make the least get the most, versus those who make the most get the most under the interim manager's plan. The interim county manager and higher paid staff would have made the most under his plan. There is no reason to distribute something that is demeaning toward someone who has put a lot of time, effort, energy, and thought into a plan that frankly was brought forward by our staff. It was well thought out. You can disagree with it, but to frame it in a way that pits one of us against one of our team members and does not allow for us to be a team does not help.
Nothing.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Lockhart. It points out the facts. That was the only intent. As I said when I started, this is a working document, just pointing out the facts.
Okay. Commissioner Zimbardo?
Then finally, future agenda items, which I've requested, which I have the documents here, which is the work session on deliverable procurement for county buildings.
Can we get into that after we do
Sure.
the district reports, if you don't mind, sir?
Yep, sure.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
So that's all I have. Thank you.
Under District 1 report, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Heather McCandless, the contractor examining board for the expiration, it's expired, she's a rotating term for the year 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion passes. One of our high schools, Haggerty High School, I've spoken to the principal. They reached out to me, and I did a site visit earlier this year. They have an issue with accessing Old Lockwood Road. In the interlocal agreement with the county regarding the construction of that school, and I'll pass out the interlocal agreement. Pass that out there, pass this out here. It limits access. In fact, this agreement was done in 1996. It's a special exception. And it's also got approval through a site plan. It had a public hearing. They're trying to expand their back parking lot, and this interlocal agreement prohibits them to doing that. I'd like to have either staff or ourselves reach out to the school board. I think it should be changed. The interlocal agreement was put in place many years ago, back 1996, because that area wasn't developed. It's now developed quite a bit, and I believe that we should allow them to not only expand the parking lot, but also change their site plan to allow them to have access onto Old Lockwood Road. And I know it has to be a public meeting, public hearing, and I'd like to ask our staff to help facilitate that with the school board staff so that they can actually come back to us to make these changes. Is there any objection? Commissioner Herr?
So I just want to interpret it a little bit differently than that.
Sure.
My guess is that what we're asking is for staff to investigate whether, from a planning perspective, it's the right thing to do, and if so, then to facilitate it. And in that instance, I'm all on.
Any objections to doing that?
No.
And that would be brought back at a future...
It's got to be brought back to
Yeah.
a future meeting.
Fine.
Okay, thank you. And then we already spoke about the Lake Pickett North subsidy. We've already talked about that. And that is the end of my district report. The future agenda items. We have a couple items. We have 4 of them. First one is the consideration of an ordinance permanently restricting large trucks from using Longwoods Markham Road. I think Commissioner Herr asked for that. Anything you'd like to add?
I am officially asking for that. This is required at this point in time because of the expansion of the highway in that portion of my district. Right now, we have temporary signage up there, which has been allowed by FDOT. They actually put signs out on 46 to prevent trucks from going down these roads. This road has a residential component in addition to the trail. And those signs are temporary while construction is in place, and before they get taken down and we start allowing trucks back down those roads, I'd like us to pass an ordinance to get our signs up. We need the ordinance in order for FDOT to put the signs out on 46.
That is a motion to consider the ordinance?
It's not, it's a future agenda item.
Oh, that's what I mean.
It's a future agenda item, but I also think there's other roads that we should be looking at, too, at the same time.
Well, I have been told that I might be opening up that discussion, and I am completely okay with opening up that
And
discussion.
I'm fine with that, Commissioner, that's not my
Yeah,
issue.
I think there will be other roads.
And I think that we should be looking at it holistically, because when you start doing it in one road, it pushes things to another neighborhood. And I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we understand how it's going to affect the other surrounding roads, if not other neighborhoods.
If you'd like me to bring this back all at once with no truck signs on multiple roads, I'm looking at John, I'd be happy to do that, because the issue is that they're spinning off of the turnabouts right into neighborhoods with 18-wheelers.
Because I have several roads, I'd love to do that too in
Yep.
District 1 as well.
Yep.
Mr.
So
Chairman?
if there's no objection,
Yeah.
I'd like to make this an agenda item in the future, so that we can look at holistically the trucks in the, throughout the county, but more importantly, understand the timing, so that we could make sure that we're doing it expeditiously to address your concerns.
If you're asking me if there's an objection, I vehemently object. This is an immediate need for this community. We have been messing around with this, quite honestly, since the day I got in office, and
This is the
prior
first
to
I've heard
that.
of it, to be honest.
No, I've brought it up before here, so, and so to hold up progress for that piece of the community in order to do a holistic, which could take years, and again, we just agreed that for 12 weeks, we're not adding any new stuff onto people's plates, so a holistic look at ordinances on no trucks is a big thing to add onto the planner's site. I would like my item discussed.
I think it was
Commissioner Zimbauer?
seconded.
I just want to know if the expectation is we're going to come up with some kind of standard that can be applied, not only to this circumstance, but similar circumstances. Is that what I'm hearing? I think I'm hearing two different things. I think I'm hearing Commissioner Herr has an immediate problem in her district, and I'm hearing from you, Commissioner Delory, that you're aware maybe there's some problems in your district,
Definitely
and how
is.
that would apply.
Well, then you
Can we
should have
not
brought
just
it up.
have engineering do a study and engineering give us an opinion?
We have existing signs in the county. How'd they get up? They exist already.
Yeah, sorry. There are existing standards. They are in place. Staff does look at those roads as those issues arise, and that's why some of the roads have signs on them already. So there are guidelines, there are standards in place to be followed.
Mr. Applegate, you have anything else you want to add?
I'm just going to say that I know David has already done research on the authority that we have over county roads and the lack of authority we have over state roads without FDOT's permission. So we can put a report together for you on that, and then
I have the report. That's why I'm here asking for this, because we can put the signs up on our road. We've already talked through that. But by the time, if you don't put them out on 46, the truck goes down the road and then is potentially turning around on the road. So I would like to avoid that for the safety of the citizens and the people walking on the trail, that we pass it so that I can get the signs put up by FDOT on 46 as well. It's a little bit of an unusual situation because of that continuity to the state road.
We will try to schedule something expeditiously and also find out when DOT on 46 are making that change.
So the motion was to have an ordinance for this specific road
Come to the board.
come to the board. That was, there was nothing about asking other things, so that, the second was for that specific motion. And so there's a motion and a second.
I get that. Any other discussion?
No.
Seeing none, call the question. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2.
Mr. Chairman.
Because I'm going to be bringing up Lockwood, Snow Hill, and a couple other roads.
And
This
Mr.
isn't
Chairman-
retaliatory.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that's appropriate. I'm not saying that I'm going to vote for this ordinance. Obviously, we want to get information on it, but it's just when, to me, when a commissioner asks for something in their district that they would like to consider. I just find it, I'm compelled to allow them the chance.
And the reason why I was asking, because I would like to know how it's going to affect other
Yeah,
areas.
and I think that the staff, when presenting it, should be, that would be very appropriate to do it. I have been locked out many times in things that I wanted before this board, not recently, but in the past.
Thank you for clarifying.
And therefore, that's the reason why I would do that for anybody unless it's something that I could never vote for. I don't know if I can vote for this. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I would be I'm willing to at
Well
least look at it.
taken. Let's go down to number 2. It's already passed.
I'm happy to have the discussion. I was a little confused. I thought we heard there were standards already there, but
Commissioners, let's go down to
Happy
number
to
2.
have it.
Request to update the board on the St. John's Waterman District on the Geneva Lens Task Force report from 1993.
I'm okay.
yes.
Report.
Request I made.
You just want a report?
Just a report from St. John's so that we all hear what's going on with the Geneva Lens.
Okay.
It's been 1993.
Any objection?
Nope.
This is just asking St. John's to send us a report, or asking them to come here to update the board in person?
Yes,
Which?
the final.
It's like
The
asking
second
my
one.
kid, do you want peanut butter and jelly or grilled cheese? Yes. No, which one? Okay. Okay, got it, good, love it.
Okay, let's move on down to number 3. Requesting a work session to discuss procurement, P3, construction management at risk, owner's rep, procurement methods, and intent to negotiate. Commissioner Zimbauer.
Yes. All I'm asking for there is that at a future work session, that we have procurement and legal give us a drill down on all the procurement methods so that we're all up to speed 100%, how they work, what they mean, how long it takes, et cetera, et cetera.
Any objection for a work session? Commissioner Lockhart.
I would just like to make sure, after maybe talking with Ms. Kuntz or other folks who are going to be taking on the responsibility of establishing work sessions, where we are with how many there are, what the calendar looks like, and what type of additional staff time this is going to create before I would give my opinion.
My perspective is that we have a vacancy right now
In procurement?
in procurement, that we would not schedule it until we get the perspective of the new leader of
Commissioner,
procurement.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you say. I think that at some point, we'd have to figure out when we can all meet and then put it on your calendar, but more importantly, we'd have to figure out when staff would have the time to do this. That's all.
Exactly.
Yes, Mr. Abel.
Could I just add that instead of having the Attorney's Office and procurement put this presentation together, that you look at an outside construction management association or something, an organization that will bring a outside perspective to the different types, because there's a lot out there. There are organizations who specialize in training sessions and information sessions of this nature, and I think it's in the commission's best interest, not that our staff can't do it, but I think that third-party perspective will be much more helpful.
I don't disagree. Would
Thank you, Mr. Abel,
invite
for that
that.
update. We will try to take that into account, and I think that's very wise. The next one is request to discuss the animal tag/license program. I've spoken to Alan Harris about this. This is coming up on a future agenda item, so request to discuss would be at that agenda item.
Perfect.
And Alan Harris was the one that suggested that he is trying to get on the agenda now.
Okay.
And can I just make a clarification that despite what some people have sent out, this is not to increase or put an animal tax on anybody, but to discuss the process that we have today and how we can improve it.
Great. Okay, that's discussion for future agenda items. Now we're going to public comments and unrelated to the agenda. I believe there's one gentleman in the back. Cheney?
Scott Banta.
Scott? Take your time coming down. And Scott, if you'd like to sit here, you're more than welcome to.
Good afternoon, Scott Banta, to reintroduce myself or to introduce myself. Scott Banta, DreamQuest Home Partners at 97 Hickory Tree Road in Longwood. We're proposing to build some tiny home neighborhoods in the county, and this is for attainable, sustainable housing. And I wanted to compliment staff, Rebecca and Mary, for their activities in changing all the land development regulations. But I'd like to introduce you to Appendix Q, if you haven't heard of that yet, which is a building code that Florida adopted last year for 400 square foot and smaller homes. We think that's important. Also, House Bill 1339 was adopted last year in Florida, which allows local government to override some of the zoning in order to provide attainable and affordable housing. And our neighborhoods are going to be like pocket neighborhoods where the house will be in circles with front porches surrounding a circular area in the center with barbecue grills and picnic tables and pavilions to promote social connectivity, et cetera. So we appreciate the idea and I'd like to come and talk to you all about it as we move forward with our progress. I've been recently on the Volusia County Land Development Regulation Committee, and they're about to promote, staff is about to propose a number of changes to the Volusia County. The city of Rockledge, the city of Wildwood have adopted tiny home ordinances. Brevard County has one. The city of DeLand and Volusia County are very progressive right now in attainable housing. So I commend your staff and you all for taking a look at, we in the burbs here sometimes don't understand that we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 people in Seminole County that are living in poverty. And I'm also on the Sharing Centers Housing Committee with Bob Turnage and some other folks. And we're working to do some attainable housing, a multi-family complex. So that's, it's really interesting. And it's really neat for me to see part of what we're doing here is we want to do a give back to the community. I've done probably about 85 fairly healthy land development deals in Central Florida since 1983. And so it's time to give this back, and we're glad that you all are open to some changes, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Any other written requests, Janie? Okay. Anyone else in the audience would like to address the board? Seeing no, we'll close public comments. Any additional comments from this board? Any additional comments from the county manager?
No, sir.
Any attorney?
No, sir.
This meeting is now adjourned.